Discover how a billionaire CEO's panic led to a life-changing moment with an unexpected hero, a heartwarming tale of redemption. John Reynolds glanced at the headlines blaring in neon lights as he hurried down the bustling streets of New York City, his heart racing. Billionaire CEO caught in scandal, screamed one article, accompanied by a grainy photo of him that made his stomach churn. It was the unthinkable, a lifetime of ambition and status about to implode. His empire felt as shaky as the stock market, and he knew he had to escape. He didn't just need to vanish, he needed a lifeline, a return to something pure. He drove to his family's small hometown in the Midwest, where life moved at a pace closer to a heartbeat than a race. As he rolled into town, nostalgia washed over him like a warm blanket, but so did the reality of the quiet streets, where brick storefronts barely held on. Familiar faces peered out from behind coffee shop counters, their smiles warm yet tinged with concern. It was a small town, laden with stories of struggle, and it tugged at his heart in ways he didn't expect. Among those familiar faces, Sarah caught his eye. She was a single mother working tirelessly at her family's diner, balancing 2 young children and mounting debts with an unwavering spirit that impressed him. Every day, she served up comfort food with a smile, but he could see the fatigue etched in her features. His heart twisted at the sight of her. Every laugh line was a testament to her strength amidst hardship. At first, John kept his distance. He observed the machinations of life unfolding around him, the games being played at the local playground, laughter spilling from picnic tables, and the delicious scent of Sarah's homemade pies wafting in the air. But that detachment began to fade when, one fateful day, tragedy struck. A plumbing disaster at the diner forced Sarah to close its doors. Her world crumbled around her, and the community's dwindling support matched her own desperate situation. John watched as Sarah fought amidst tears and determination. Suddenly, he felt a new sensation unfurling within him: injustice. How could this happen to her, to all of them? After a lifetime of chasing dollars, he realized he hadn't truly understood what it meant to be part of something greater, a community that held each other up. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Over the next few weeks, John concocted a plan, determined to rally the community to save the diner. He began to gather support, knocking on doors and talking to anyone who would listen. Each interaction brought him face to face with the reality of financial struggles etched into their lined faces, the same faces he had barely noted before. While some hesitated, suspicion lingering in their eyes, others began to find hope in his passion. Then, as if fate had a cruel sense of humor, yet another blow landed. Just when momentum seemed within reach, a scandal from his past surfaced, threatening to unravel everything. Mixed emotions clouded his mind. He was torn between his old life and the burgeoning bonds he was building with Sarah and the town. He had come here to escape, yet maybe this was where he truly belonged. Would he rise to the challenge and prove that change was more than just a passing whim? Or were the shadows of his past too heavy to let him embrace the light? As the clock ticked and uncertainty loomed, one thing became clear: the town, and his chance at redemption, hung precariously in the balance. The night was heavy with uncertainty. John sat on the porch of the diner, the wooden steps creaking under his weight. The warm glow from inside illuminated the shadows, revealing glimpses of laughter and whispered plans as Sarah worked tirelessly with the few remaining loyal customers. The smell of grease and sweet pies hung in the air, and while it reminded him of comfort, tonight it only served to heighten the urgency he felt in his gut. He replayed the latest headlines in his mind. Each word was a reminder of the cage he had tried to escape. The past was a ghost that loomed large, clawing at his resolve. Would they ever truly accept him? With his reputation in tatters, what could he offer this community? Yet, watching Sarah, her determination carved from steel, he felt another urge rising within him, the urge to stand up. Maybe he didn't need to fight alone. With that thought, he sprang into action. There was little time to waste. He began crafting a plan, reaching out to old contacts, and setting up a fundraiser to save the diner. Next morning, armed with determination and a glimmer of hope, he approached the townsfolk. Each door he knocked on meant a new opportunity to change their narrative, but not everyone was ready to believe in his intentions. "Why should we trust you?" one grizzled man asked, skepticism deepening the lines on his brow. "You're just another city slicker looking to use us for your gain." John's heart sank momentarily, but he composed himself. "I'm not here to take. I came to give back." His voice was steady, resonating with a sincerity that rippled through the crowd. "I've seen what happens when greed rules the heart. I don't want that life anymore. I want to help this town." He felt the warmth of their frustration and sadness wrap around him like a thick fog, but also, a flicker of energy began to ignite that eye, and the following days, a shift occurred. People shared stories of resilience, as their laughter intermingled with tears of struggle. The sense of togetherness was palpable, breaking through mistrust like the sun breaking through a storm. Sarah, inspired by his efforts, jumped in, rallying the community around their shared love for food, friendship, and familial bonds. They organized potluck dinners, bake sales, and local auctions. Each dollar raised was a symbol of hope, stitching their patches of hardship into a tapestry of courage. The diner became a hub of life, drawing in even the doubters. John felt alive again, more than he had in years. He listened to every story, every tear shed, every laugh shared. He even helped turn the old diner's patio into an outdoor space dotted with potted herbs and flowering plants, a small garden where hope could grow alongside delicious meals. But as the fundraiser approached, John scarcely noticed how the scandals of his past had begun to rear their ugly heads once more. His phone buzzed, a notification breaking the buzz of excitement around him. Another damning article about his exploits. Words like liar, betrayal, and greed screamed out from the screen. The community buzz around him dulled as eyes shifted uneasily. Would this be the moment his efforts unraveled? Would Sarah see him for the man he was trying to be, or the fraud his past painted him to be? The weight of truth sat heavy on his shoulders. He knew he had to confront it, but was he willing to sacrifice the fragile connections he had forged for the sake of honesty? As he stood there, heart pounding, the air shifted. Could he reconcile his past with the future he desperately wanted? Inside the diner, laughter faded away, replaced by hushed whispers that sent chills down his spine, leaving him at a precipice. The moment hung in the air. John realized he had a choice to make. As he took a deep breath, a resolve surged within him. Would he face the storm, or would he run away once again? The diner's atmosphere changed in an instant. The laughter that had once filled the room faded like smoke on the wind. John felt it in his bones, the turning of the tide. He glanced inside, where the lively chatter had stilled into uneasy silence. Their eyes flickered between him and his phone, the words of that article like a heavy stone caught in their throats. "You don't get to come back and pretend everything is fine," shouted a voice from the back. It was Ted, a local carpenter who had always worn his emotions on his sleeve. "We remember the man you were." John's heart twisted at the edge of that accusation. The weight of his past felt like shackles closing around him, a reminder that redemption was never a straight path. He had worked hard to earn these people's trust, but now, with each word from Ted, that trust seemed to shatter like glass. "I know," he replied, feeling the sting of accusation in his throat. "I've made mistakes. But I've changed. I'm not that man anymore." The room remained silent. People exchanged glances, some with pity, others with anger. But Sarah, standing at the counter, looked conflicted. John's breath caught. "Sarah," he called, his voice breaking through the thick tension. She met his gaze, and for a moment, he saw the fire that first inspired him to act. "I want to prove myself, not just to you but to everyone in this town. I want to be here for you, for all of you. Words don't mean much here, John, said another townsperson, Marcy, who had always been skeptical. What we need is action. You can't just talk your way back into our lives. He knew she was right. Then let us take action together. The fundraiser is the heart of this community. We can make it something that brings everyone together, something to remind us of our roots. With that, he couldn't help but draw on the memories of simpler times, the laughter of children playing in the streets, the aroma of homemade pies cooling in windows. I know my past can't be erased, but if we work side by side, we could build something even stronger. Let us save the diner together. There was a murmur in the room, a flicker of hope amidst uncertainty. Some faces softened. But John could still feel the heavy cloud of distrust hovering above. Are you committed to this? To us? Asked Sarah, her steady gaze locking onto his. It was both a challenge and an invitation that he took her hands, holding them tight, feeling the warmth pulsating between them. More than anything. This diner is a piece of my soul now. I'll pour everything I have into making it thrive, into making us thrive. Sarah's expression shifted slightly, a subtle sign of encouragement that reignited the spark of connection. The following days proved grueling. John found himself back in the community, the skeptical eyes still watching, still testing him. He threw himself into preparing for the fundraiser, and slowly, bit by bit, he gathered volunteers. Some were hesitant, working quietly, while others caught the vision John painted for their future, but then, just as the diner's once gloomy shadow seemed to lift, another twist awaited. Editors began circling for more on his story, an unexpected visit from a journalist promising to expose more than just the past but the fragile hope he had dared to build. As John prepped for the event, a knot of anxiety coiled in his stomach. Had he merely gilded a tarnished piece of history? Was he ready for the scrutiny that would come from sharing his side of the story? Before he could consider the consequences, Sarah stood beside him, her presence grounding. No matter what, you've got us. The words carried a weight, a promise that Deben earned through vulnerability and grit. Yet shadows still loomed, reminding him of doubts. As the night of the fundraiser approached, John's heart raced with questions. Would acceptance or condemnation await him? And just as he felt poised to step into the light, another notification lit up his phone, leaving him breathless. Stop the headline. It blared. Billionaire CEO and his past, will he save or sink the diner? His heart stuttered. Would he manage to turn the tides once more, or was this the moment it all came crashing down? John pressed a trembling finger against the screen, the notification blurring into a haze as panic washed over him. The weight of the words felt like a storm ready to break. What had he been thinking? He wanted to lead a charge, to redefine not only his future but the future of the diner and all the lives entwined with it. It's all over, isn't it? He muttered under his breath, the words tasting bitter. Hey, focus, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the fog. This is just noise. Remember why you're here. She leaned closer, and he could feel her warmth even in the tense atmosphere surrounding them. You've worked hard to gather people. Don't let one headline define everything. Her faith anchored him, but doubt still loomed in the corners of his mind. What if the scrutiny revealed all his flaws? What if the townspeople turned away again, this time for good? The night of the fundraiser arrived, and the diner was transformed. Strings of colorful lights twinkled overhead, reflecting off the polished countertops like stars against the night. The scent of sizzling burgers and fresh pies wafted through the air, drawing in familiar faces from every corner of the community. A small band strummed in the corner, and for a moment, John felt hope stir within him, yet, as guests poured in, welcoming smiles and laughter clashed with the tension building inside his chest. Each questioning look felt like a reminder of the storm brewing outside his control. The moment he stepped up to the microphone, he felt the weight of every gaze pressing down on him. Thank you all for coming.
I know my past is a shadow that lingers, he started, his voice shaky but resolute. But tonight isn't just about me. It's about all of us. This diner represents our community, our shared stories, and I believe together, we can make it even better. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of skepticism and hope. But as he continued, sharing memories of community gatherings, late-night discussions over coffee, and the laughter that echoed through the walls, he caught the eyes of familiar faces, friends, neighbors, old mentors. The energy shifted gradually, the air filling with renewed possibilities. Just as he regained his footing, a commotion erupted by the front door. A figure stood there, silhouetted against the bright lights outside. It was Ted, the carpenter who had called him out days earlier. The tension in the room faltered. Was he there to disrupt or support? "It's about time we had real conversation," he shouted, stepping forward. "Yeah, we remember your past, John. But you're right. It's not just about what you've done. It's about what you're doing now." His voice echoed, and John felt the crowd respond, a collective intake of breath as hope hung in the air. "Let us give him a chance. We're all flawed, aren't we?" Ted continued, his eyes softening. "Let us build something real together. Tonight, let us save this diner and, in turn, save ourselves." A ripple of applause broke out, hesitant at first but quickly building into a chorus of support. John felt Sarah squeeze his hand, her pride radiating warmth. This was the moment he needed. A community rising together, despite the headlines, despite the past, but the night wasn't over yet. Just as laughter filled the diner and spirits lifted, a loud bang startled everyone, followed by a commotion at the back. All heads turned, and John's heart dropped. What now? Amidst the chaos, he heard the words being shouted. "You've been played. You think that's all there is to his story? There's something more." What was happening? John's heart raced. What truth was lurking in the shadows, waiting to surface? Before John could process the noise, the crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. The atmosphere shifted from hopeful to charged. He took a step forward, trying to make sense of the chaos. People craned their necks to see over each other, and the laughter from moments ago evaporated into anxious murmurs. "Who is that?" someone whispered. "Did you hear what he said?" Another replied. John's heart raced as he turned toward the source of the commotion. A frail figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the light. It was a woman with wild, unkempt hair, carrying a stack of papers. Panic filled her eyes clearly. This wasn't a planned interruption. "I know about you, John," she shouted, her voice hoarse but full of urgency. "You don't have to hide anymore. They've been lying, all of them." John's breath hitched. The whispering crowd shifted uneasily, and he felt Sarah's hand grip tighter around his. He didn't know who this woman was, but the fear in her gaze tugged at something deep inside him, a sense of kinship, maybe. "What do you mean?" John asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "What lies?" She stepped closer, scattering the papers she had been holding, and they cascaded to the floor like fallen leaves. "I found what they don't want you to know. About your past, about why things happened the way they did. There's more to the story." A small section of the crowd leaned forward, intrigued. Ted remained firm, eyes fixed on the woman, unsure whether to defend John or let her speak. This was spiraling out of his control. "What are you talking about?" John demanded gently, but his voice trembled. The stakes were higher than he had imagined. The path he was trying to create for the diner and his life hung precariously, now on the edge of revelation. There's a company. They've been manipulating everything. "You think you're the bad guy?" "No, it's them," she shouted, her eyes darting around as though seeking allies in the crowd. "They used you as a pawn in their game and now they're trying to bury you." A murmur swept through the crowd, voices rising in surprise and anger. John's heart sank. He thought he was on the path to redemption, but now he wasn't sure what to believe. The truth within her words felt like a lifeline but also a heavy weight pressing against him. "What's your name?" John asked, his gaze locked onto hers, desperate for clarity. "Lila," she said, her breath quickening. "I used to work for them." Enough." A deep voice interrupted from the back. A man pushed through the crowd, anger radiating from him like heat from a fire. "You're just stirring trouble. You think anyone will believe you, Lila? Just go home." The tension in the room shifted. Sides were taken, the crowd divided. Some were fueled with anger, while others, including Ted and Sarah, leaned towards John, searching for answers in his expression. "Everyone deserves to know." Lila shouted back, her voice fierce despite the fear bubbling beneath it. "Your choices are not all you are, John. You've taken the blame for things you didn't even do. It's time to stop hiding." John felt their eyes on him. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for him to make a choice that he could confront the truth or hide behind the facade he had been trying so hard to build. But this encounter felt different. What if there was something valuable hidden in the chaos? Taking a deep breath, John looked at the crowd. "Let her speak." As Lila stepped closer, papers now scattered around like shattered dreams, anticipation crackled in the air. What lay buried in those documents? What truths would redefine his past and perhaps reshape his future? Everything hinged on the next moments. As Lila bent down to gather her scattered papers, the desperation in her actions further electrified the crowd. John could sense the weight of their curiosity pressing against him. Each person leaned forward, drawn to the mystery that surrounded Lila's revelation, their breaths hitching in unison, suspended in this moment of potential clarity. "Look," Lila said, finally rising to her feet, papers clutched tightly against her chest. "These documents prove it." She flipped through the pages, her brows knitted in concentration. "I had access to everything, the records, the meetings, the conversations you were never meant to hear. They ruined lives, John, including yours." John's heart pounded wildly in his chest. He could feel Sarah's anxiety mirroring his own, her fingers intertwining with his to form an unbreakable bond of support. But as Lila continued, pulling out specific names and dates, John felt an unfamiliar sensation ripple through him. It was a mix between anger and the stirring of hope. "This company played you. They twisted the truth, manipulated the narrative, and made you the scapegoat." Lila exclaimed, her voice rising with each word. "But your past doesn't define your future. You can break free from this cycle." The crowd buzzed with mixed reactions. Some remained skeptical, shaking their heads, while others looked on with a glimmer of belief igniting within them. Ted, still on the edge, stepped forward, straddling the tension. "And what proof do you have, Lila? These are serious accusations." Lila, undeterred, waved a paper in the air. "This. They thought they were invincible, but I found everything. The truth is out there, waiting for someone to claim it." John's mind raced. Was it possible? Could everything he experienced be part of a larger scheme? The ache of past mistakes still lingered in him, but perhaps there was a thread of redemption woven into this chaos. His childhood was murky, filled with shadows, but what if there was a real chance to step into the light? "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked, his voice a mix of vulnerability and resolve. The question broke through the crowd's murmurs, and silence fell over them, all ears turned to Lila once more. "Help me," she urged, her eyes imploring. "Let us expose them together. Show everyone the truth. You're not alone in this, John. We can face them." Her words sank deep into his heart, resonating with something he thought long buried. The notion of standing up against something wrong, a chance to reclaim his narrative, felt exhilarating yet terrifying. Could he truly confront the ghosts of his past? But before he could respond, the man from earlier, still simmering, spat out harshly, "This is ridiculous.
You'll tarnish your reputation, John. Just step back. The tension wrapped around John like a thick fog, making it hard to breathe. He'd spent so much time rebuilding, but now, perhaps, rebuilding meant stepping into the unknown. Sarah took a step forward, her voice trembling but strong. No. This is his life we're talking about. John deserves to know, we all deserve to know. The crowd began to ripple, swaying toward the shared belief that perhaps truth could lead to change. Lila's fervor reignited hope. Despite the looming fear of challenges, John needed to decide. Would he risk everything for an uncertain future? Or would he retreat back into the shadows, sealing his fate once more? As he looked around at the sea of faces, some hopeful, some doubtful, he felt the weight of his decision pressing against him. It was time to step out of the shadows and into the light. I'll do it, he said finally, his voice steady. Let us expose the truth together. The crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and gasps, the air charged with emotion. But among the clamor, John sensed a darker presence, lingering in the background, plotting its next move. What had he just agreed to, and at what cost? As the truth loomed ahead, casting long shadows in its wake, John couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. And as Lila started to gather her remaining papers again, one caught the wind and fluttered away, revealing a glimpse of a name that sent chills down his spine. Who else was tangled in this web of deception? Lila's gasp broke through the crowd's chatter, her hand reaching out instinctively to grab the fluttering paper before it could dance away completely. But John was faster. His long strides brought him to it just in time, and as he picked it up, a chill shot through him. The name on the page was all too familiar, a ghost from his past he had tried very hard to forget. Lila, he said, the paper trembling slightly in his grip, this name, it's him. Benjamin Cole. The name hung in the air, heavy with implications. Benjamin, the CEO who'd once been a mentor but had turned out to be the architect of John's downfall. The crowd around them fell silent. Curious glances darted among the members, everyone processing how this single name could shift the narrative altogether. You worked with him? Lila asked, her eyes wide. For a summer internship. I thought I was on my way to something great, but his voice trailed off. The memory twisted like a knife. Corruption, deceit, and a hasty exit marked his time there. He's at the center of this? Ted pressed, skepticism still lingering in his tone. Not just at the center, Lila replied, urgency lacing her voice. He orchestrated everything, from top to bottom. I'm sure of it. That's why they had to bury you, John. You were a threat to what they were building. John felt the weight of those words. A threat. Suddenly, everything he had endured made a bitter kind of sense. But with that realization came fear. But he's powerful, Lila. What can we do against someone like that? Powerful, yes. But not invincible, she fired back, determination flaring in her eyes. We have the truth on our side. With your inside knowledge and these documents, we can expose him. We can expose them all. Another murmur spread through the crowd, hopeful yet cautious. John scanned their faces, seeking the courage hidden within him. He felt Sarah's hand squeezing his, grounding him in the moment. This isn't just for me, it's for everyone they've hurt. To turn their misdeeds into justice. Lila nodded, her expression fierce. Exactly. This isn't just about your past. It's about standing up for the future of everyone affected. Will you help us, John? Sarah's voice was soft but filled with urgency, as though she were pulling him from the depths of uncertainty. With every beat of his heart, John could feel the rising tide of determination. I'll do whatever it takes, he declared, voice steadier now, echoing through the silence of the crowd. But we can't do this alone. We need to rally everyone who has a stake in this, everyone who fears him. We can't only fight for ourselves, we need to fight for each other. The crowd began to nod along, and in that moment, John realized the power of unity. Bit by bit, he felt the shackles of his past begin to loosen, then, suddenly, deep in the back of his mind, a thought struck with a jolt. If Benjamin got wind of their plans, would he come after them? Would he retaliate? It sent ripples of fear through him. Just as he was about to voice his concerns, someone in the crowd shouted, "Let us go to the press." "Smart thinking," Lila said, bolstering the idea. "We need to create a push, generate noise, and maybe they won't see it coming." But doubt still loomed. John's heart beat faster. What if they weren't ready for the backlash? Was he truly prepared to drag everyone, including Sarah and Lila, into a brutal fight? As thoughts raced through his mind, a sudden noise broke the weighty tension. A familiar figure stepped forward, an older man with a worried expression. "John, we need to talk." "I came because," he paused, uncertainty flooding his features. "What's wrong?" John asked, feeling the weight of his decision suddenly shift with this new, ominous presence. And then it hit him, hard. A sense of deep foreboding filled the air. What revelation was this man about to unveil? John's eyes locked onto the older man's face, searching for answers in the uncertainty etched there. A few gasps broke out among the crowd, tension rising like steam from a boiling pot. The man stepped closer, his presence commanding, a figure that seemed to have lived through enough storms to recognize the oncoming dark clouds. "John," he began, his voice low but urgent, "I didn't come here by choice. I thought I could stay away, but Benjamin is dangerous. He's onto you. His reach extends further than you know." "What do you mean?" John's heart raced, pounding like a drum against his rib cage. "How do you know all this?" The man hesitated, glancing at the crowd before focusing back on John, eyes filled with concern. "I used to work with him. I was one of his advisors. I've seen how he operates, and now he's taking measures to silence anyone who threatens him." "If he finds out you have those documents," "What are the documents?" Lila interrupted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Everyone turned their attention to John, who felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He remembered the files he had clutched when he left the corporation, the ones he had thought were only liability waivers at first. But they held everything: emails, contracts, evidence of the corruption that ran rampant in Benjamin's empire. "I can't let this blow back on all of us," John mumbled, his voice low. "What if he retaliates? What if some harm comes to you, or to the others?" The older man leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "You need to act. He might be powerful, but there are more people like us, people who have stories to tell, people who can rally against his tyranny. But you have to get the ball rolling. You can't wait for him to make the first move." John's mind reeled. The weight of the decision felt almost unbearable, but he caught Lila's unwavering gaze. Her courage sparked something in him that had long been dormant. He couldn't let fear dictate his life anymore. "Okay," John breathed, the determination solidifying in his core. "Let us do this. We'll go to the press, but we'll also need to gather our own evidence, things he can't sweep under the rug. And we'll need a safe place to meet." "A secure location," Lila confirmed, nodding. "We need to keep our plans close, make sure Benjamin can't interfere before we strike." "Good," the older man replied, a spark of hope igniting in his eyes. "We can connect with others who've been affected. There's strength in numbers, you just need to reach out, and they will come." As John began to plot their course of action, a sense of camaraderie grew. They were no longer just a group of individuals with scars from the past, they had purpose. The atmosphere shifted from fear to resolve, and whispers of solidarity brushed through the crowd, but just as they began to strategize, a loud crash echoed through the square, pulling everyone's attention away. A car had screeched to a halt nearby, casting a long shadow over their growing hope. Out stepped men in dark suits, their faces emotionless, scanning the crowd like predators detecting prey. Panic rippled through the spectators. "Everyone, stay calm. John shouted, adrenaline surging through his veins. It's okay. But the men were already moving toward him, their eyes zeroing in on John, and he could feel the weight of their threat before they even spoke. John, one of them called out, tone icy and authoritative. We need to talk now. The air thickened with unease, and John's heart sank as he realized they were no longer just fighting shadows, they were at the edge of a very real confrontation. What did they want? And how far would Benjamin go to keep his secrets buried? The men in dark suits moved closer, their expressions as cold as steel. The crowd, once buzzing with hope, now held its breath. John's pulse raced. He could feel Lila's fingers slightly tighten around his arm, her presence a comforting reminder that he was not alone. Stay behind me, he whispered to her, trying to project confidence, though his heart felt like it was about to leap from his chest. John, the lead man repeated, his voice now dripping with impatience. We don't have time for games. We need the documents you have. Hand them over, and we can resolve this without further issues. For a moment, John's mind spun. He thought of the files, the damning evidence that could expose Benjamin's duplicity. Could he really just hand them over? The weight of the decision was suffocating, and every instinct screamed for him to protect the truth. He glanced around, taking in the crowd. Some looked frightened, others defiant. Everyone believed in him now. I won't give them to you, John declared, surprising even himself with the strength of his voice. If you want them, you'll have to go through me. The lead man smirked, the corner of his lips twitching upward like he found John's bravery amusing. This is a dangerous game you're playing. You're in over your head. John squared his shoulders, determination warming him from the inside despite the chill creeping into the air. I don't care. If you think you can intimidate me, you're wrong. The tension in the air hummed with electricity as the suited men exchanged glances. John could almost see the wheels turning in their heads, calculating their next moves. Behind him, Lila's breath hitched, a small sound of concern that only fired up John's resolve. Let us not escalate this, one of the other men said, his tone much softer but still menacing. You have no idea with whom you're dealing. Benjamin is not just a businessman. He is powerful. And he won't like you making waves. I'm already in the deep end, John shot back. I'd rather drown fighting than hand over what's right. Just then, the older man who had warned John stepped forward, his posture tense, but his voice steady. You don't want to do this. Think of what you're risking, John. For a brief moment, doubt crept into John's mind. Was he being foolish? But then he remembered the faces of those affected by Benjamin's greed, the courage of those who had gathered to stand by his side. He couldn't turn back now. The lead man stepped closer, narrowing his eyes. You think you're brave? You have no idea what he is capable of or what we are capable of. As his words hung ominously in the air, a loud horn blared from the street, shattering the standoff. A familiar figure appeared, rushing toward them through the crowd. Mark, a friend from John's old company. He was waving his arms wildly, eyes wide with fear. John! Get out of here! It's a trap! Mark yelled, pushing through the bodies to reach him. Chaos erupted. The men in suits froze, alarm flashing on their faces. John's heart raced again, not just with fear but with the kind of hope that could ignite a spark in a dark room. We have to move, now. Lila urged, grabbing John's hand tightly. Not without the documents, he insisted, feeling the urgency swell inside him. Mark turned to the men, determination replacing fear. You want what he has? You'll have to go through all of us to get it. The crowd instinctively surged closer, a mass of bodies ready to support John and his fearless allies. Standing together, we are stronger than any threat. Lila's voice rang out, rallying those around them. Just like that, the tone shifted. The men in suits were no longer predators, they were the hunted. But just as John felt a glimmer of hope blooming in his chest, the lead man pulled out a device, pressing a button that a loud siren pierced the air. "Backup is on the way. You'll all regret this," he sneered before stepping back, eyes calculating the distance to retreat. John's heart raced. With the stakes higher than ever, they needed to act quickly. "Where do we go?" John shouted over the rising din. Lila's eyes sparkled defiantly. "We'll head to the old warehouse. We can barricade ourselves there, and wait for the others to join us." The crowd began to disperse, forming a protective wall around John and Lila, their collective spirit igniting flames of bravery, but as they sprinted toward safety, John couldn't shake the feeling that the real fight was just beginning. The sirens grew louder, pressing down on him. Would they make it? What would happen next? Only one thing was certain: this wouldn't end without more sacrifices. Would the truth finally see daylight, or would Benjamin's darkness snuff them out once and for all? The old warehouse loomed ahead, a relic of what once was. The wooden doors creaked in the wind, but inside, it held an unmistakable warmth of community and resolve. John, Lila, and the group dashed through the entrance, hearts racing, adrenaline pumping. They barely managed to close the door behind them before the first siren moaned in the distance. "This place should hold," Lila said, scanning the room, her eyes flickering with determination. "Yeah, but not for long," John replied, pressing his back against the wall. They were followed closely by the townsfolk: Ted, Sarah, and a handful of others, each one's face etched with concern and courage. He could feel every pulse in his veins. The fight was closer than ever. "Okay, everyone," John spoke up, trying to collect his thoughts. "We need to decide our next move. They'll come here looking for us, and we need a plan." The tension in the room was palpable. Shadows danced on the walls as they gathered in a semicircle, each person eager to defend what they had built together. Lila stepped forward, her passion igniting the atmosphere. "The documents we need to expose Benjamin are still our strongest weapon. But we can't just sit here. We need to send someone to the press, make a public statement. We have to harness this moment." The murmurs of agreement echoed. People nodded, glances filled with the spirit of hope, but doubt clawed at John. "What if they find us before we make a move? What if they already know we're here?" "Then we fight," Ted spoke, fists clenched, eyes blazing with defiance. "We're in this together, John. You taught us that. And I'll stand with you. We've got your back." His heart swelled. The community was no longer a distant memory, they were family now, united in a purpose much larger than any past mistake. "You're right. We don't back down. We stand up for each other." Suddenly, there was a loud bang against the door, causing everyone to jump. Panic surged through the group. John's mind raced, adrenaline pulsing through him. "Get ready!" he shouted, preparing for the worst. Inside the warehouse, fear quickly transformed into resolve. The door rattled as heavy knocks intensified. Sarah remained calm, glancing at John with reassurance. "Stay focused. We can do this." He nodded, heart racing with the thought of what was to come. "We've come too far to let fear take over. They need to hear our story." From the shadows emerged a flickering idea that felt electric. "Let us prepare a press release. We'll send it out from here and make sure the world knows who Benjamin truly is." John's voice rang with certainty, bolstering hope in them all. "Yes!" Lila exclaimed, excitement dancing in her eyes. "We'll get the truth out there. We need a safe way to communicate with the media." "Ted, do you have a way to hack into the local news feed?" John asked, knowing Ted's skills were crucial for their plan. "I can try," Ted replied, already rifling through his bag with deft fingers. "We'll broadcast our message and bring everything to light. No more hiding." As they formulated their plan, the dark door creaked open just a crack. John's heart dropped, and he held his breath. "If they come in," but before he could finish, a familiar voice called out. "John! It's me. Mark rushed in, panting. "I've got backup. I brought some friends who believe in the cause." Relief washed over the group like rain after drought. With Mark's arrival, they could amplify their voices even further. John felt an immense weight lift off his shoulders. "Thank you for coming," John breathed. Brief introductions were made, and as new faces joined the cause, the urgency surrounding their mission became palpable. "Let us group up and prepare the message," Lila directed, transitioning smoothly into leadership mode. "We need to get our story straight. Who has documents? Who can share first-hand experiences? We need every voice." As they gathered around a makeshift table, old crates and sheets of plywood stories began to flow. Each tale spilled out with raw honesty. It became clear that not just John, but many had been woven into the tragedy of Benjamin's deception. John closed his eyes, imagining what it would feel like for everyone to finally hear their truths: the pain, the loss, the resilience. When he reopened them, their faces glowed with conviction. "Let us lock this down," he urged. "If we're going to confront Benjamin, we do it as a united front. Local news doesn't just need to hear about him, they need to hear about us, the lives he has affected." With every pulse of resolve ringing through them, the team worked through the night. Whispered plans felt like a symphony of hope. They shared laughter, tears, and ultimately forged a bond stronger than any fear lingering from the outside world. They were no longer just individuals, they were a force. As dawn approached, thoughts of the confrontation beyond the warehouse doors lingered, but John's heart held steady. He had faced the shadows, and now together with this community, they would fight for the truth. With every word crafted, every voice raising against the storm, they echoed a single message: together, they would not back down. Once the first rays of sunlight peeked through the warehouse window and designed their press release, John could finally feel the power of solidarity. It wasn't just about the fight ahead anymore, it was about family, unity, and the radiant strength of shared beliefs. "We'll send this out now. Our truth needs to be heard." As he glanced around the room, each face reflected fought-back fears, but more importantly, they shone with courage. With that courage, they faced the dark storm that loomed ahead, ready to confront Benjamin and demand accountability. With their stories entwined, they stepped toward a future filled with hope. And the light just dawned. Please, remember this moment. If you love this heartwarming conclusion, you need to subscribe now. You won't want to miss the next exclusive stories we have coming your way. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm and let your support shine. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. Your thoughts matter, and share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love. Only true fans understand how important your support is.